Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Evan Geyer. What I don't like about the minimum wage at the end of this short movie. Today we're going to talk about surfs up economics. Where and how does wealth move and get transferred, and why do the rich get richer? Excess money? Well, goods go to the rich, even if it is just on the balance sheet, and not the rich owning millions of pairs of shoes that might have been purchased on credit. You see the rich getting richer. Do they really have all that tangible wealth? Does Elon Musk really have hundreds, over $100 billion of actual tangible wealth, like in a house and cars and boats and shoes? No. It's you're wearing his shoes. You've got it on credit. He's got it on a balance sheet somewhere that your credit as his owner as his wealth. So Surf's Up Economics explains how the rich get richer and where the wealth goes. Surf's Up, it goes up. The wealth goes up. The people on the bottom, the floor, the poor, they produce actual wealth, and the wealth surfs up because they only keep that wealth if they make more than they spend, no matter what they produce. The wealth surfs up because wealthy allow the poor to increase production. Elon Musk allows just the average Joe to produce more than the average Joe could produce on his own. So they go work for Elon Musk, and more is produced. And if Elon Musk just pays you a little bit more than you could make on your own, it's a good win-win. It's a win-win. So that's what is going on. The wealth surfs up because the wealthy allow poor to increase production and only need to pay what could be produced on their own or a tiny bit more for the worker to work. The production then surfs to the top again if a worker goes into debt, as they pay interest or are required to sell what they have to survive. So that's where the shoe actually transfers to the rich. And if the rich don't want that shoe, then the price goes down. The only way to save the poor and avoid the surfs up economics is non-bankruptcy assets. And it's something that I propose. I propose $10,000 of solar going to every American. And if that American goes bankrupt, they keep the solar. They keep the solar. It doesn't go to the rich. It's not so much that it's a socialism, but it's not so little that they're not going to need to still work. They still need to work. But they get $10,000 of solar. Every American. And if they go bankrupt, it can't be taken by the rich. Not ever been heard of until I thought of the idea. Anyway. Starving, suffering, when broke, the poverty trap. If one is paying interest on debt, they could have cash flow less than what they can produce on their own. They have to go work somewhere else. The rich can lose money when they take the losses. So generally it surfs up. However, how do the rich lose money? The rich can lose money when they take losses upon themselves in the form of debt, which they can't outproduce. And the weaker the economy, the less debt that may be taken on, while being a safe investment that can produce in its way profit to increase wealth. So instead of taking those shoes from you when you are in debt and need to sell them, they're like, no, I'm going to take a producing asset and try to outproduce the debt. If the rich were to just buy up all the shoes and make us walk barefoot, then they would probably still be theoretically not losing wealth. Oh. So the rich can't produce, and the wealthy of the economy, the less debt that may be taken on while being a safe investment that can produce its way to profit to increase wealth. So the rich lose money through poor investment decisions, and it doesn't have as much to do with what they individually produce. However, when the means of production stops or slows, opportunity gets reduced and cash becomes king of people are competing for quality of life unless more money is printed, and which doesn't actually produce more, where wealth gets transferred because sellers don't receive a fair enough price for what is sold as more and more is printed, an environment where businesses struggle rather than flourish is created. If one saves to build a business and sells something and money is losing value prior to sales, can't pay for future products to sell and expansion, the past has a lesser value and can't pay for the future. That's if they're printing money. They say, we'll print our way out of it. Well, if it's deunification, which I've explained in a different video, and it's a poor economy, you can't really print your way out of the situation. And I'll explain. Say you've got a strawberry stand or a farm producing strawberries, and you put in $100 this year to produce strawberries, and you netted $10 in profit. Well, if you double the money supply and everything else is the same, then it's going to cost you double. It's going to cost you $200 to plant the next crop, right? So maybe you'd think, oh, that's good. They're making $20. Now, if everything's the same, 10%, and then they do it again, they plant, it costs $400, they make $40. However, how are you supposed to pay for that $400 when you made $40 this year, but you made $10 the first year? You see, the money that was made in the past doesn't go as far. So eventually, you can't keep up with the rising costs. Next year, it's $800 to start the farm, and you're going to make $80. However, you know the year after that, it's going to be $1,600. And if you only made $80, there's no reason to plant the crop because your earnings are never going to catch up to the cost to plant because your earnings are not keeping up with the costs. So that is the reason that printing money doesn't work. And you could put that out on a spreadsheet and see if you ever make money. But if you're making 10%, I haven't actually done the math. Maybe you can do it. If you're making 10% and the costs keep doubling every year, I don't think you'll ever make your money back. So printing money doesn't solve the problem in a stagnant or poor economy. That's important to know when you're listening to the Federal Reserve. All right, and so back to the initial question, why I like a high minimum wage? Well, a tip doesn't mean as much. It reduces wealth and productivity. You know, you've got other people on the bottom who could make more than they could make on their own with teaming up with the rich. However, they can't do it because the minimum wage is too high, and the minimum wage is over what they could produce on their own. It also reduces total wealth and productivity, and it creates boredom. So if it's over what they could produce on their own, it becomes a problem. It reduces, and it creates boredom. Just people sitting around because they can't get a job because the minimum wage is too high. All right. Well, that's Surface Up Economics. If you have any comments or questions, please post them. And I'll talk to you and see you later.